So you may be thinking, well, that's all fine and good, but what do all of these people want? For me as a business owner, or for me as an executive, what is it that I need to provide for my clients and customers? At the end of the day, they want something of value. They really want to feel that they're a part of your business. They want to feel like they are special amongst all of the customers and clients that you have, that they're special and you're talking to them. They really want to feel like they have a targeted specific solution to their targeted specific problem. And they really want to understand the benefits of working for you. They don't just want a laundry list of what it is that you do. So it seems like your customers and clients are asking for a lot, right? We can manage it really easily with a few things. We're going to talk about 5 things that you need to know, and then really 5 things that will bring it all together. But before we leave this, I just want to ask, anybody notice a theme here? Them, right? Exactly. Social media is all about them. It is not all about you. The quicker that you understand that, the higher impact your efforts will have. Okay. So first, I want to talk about the concept of listening. When we talk about listening in social media, we have this unprecedented opportunity. And we were talking before we began today about some traditional marketing efforts and how some people will drop just really a lot of money in some traditional advertising and marketing efforts without really understanding what they should be looking for, what they should be gauging for, or how to identify success. The beautiful thing about social media, we'll talk about this more in a moment, is you have the ability to listen, to find very targeted prospects and leads in a way that we couldn't have even dreamt about even just 5 years ago. So let's look at an example. Let's talk about Twitter for a second. Let's say, Doctor, is it Coleman?
Cold iron.
Cold iron? Okay. Let's say that you are in the market, you need to increase, you've looked at your year-over-year service provider, services that have been provided, and you are missing out on the terrier market between 12 and 15 pounds, or whatever the case may be. You can very specifically you can use a tool like Twitter, if you're savvy enough to know how to listen, to find those very specific types of clients that you're looking for. So you could go to something like search.twitter.com and you can type in, okay, I want to find people who are talking about terriers. And I want to find people who are talking about terriers within a 10-mile radius of 73034. Well, it's going to pull up everybody who's talking about their terrier within that radius in real time. So if you are savvy and somebody says, poor little Digger, Cindy's dog, poor little Digger is having this problem again, I don't know what to do. Well, you or your staff would be able to immediately jump on that, be able to provide information, be an expert. So when it comes time for her to make that decision of who she's going to bring little Digger to, well, my goodness, you just immediately open the door. She immediately trusts you because you took the time to work with her, okay? So you can think about that in terms of very targeted keywords. You can think about that in very, very targeted geolocations, or very targeted geographical areas. We can find people to build a community around. Or maybe it is even that we have a competitor. So maybe there is a vet's office up the street who is really tapping into this whole social media thing, and the staff over there says, you know what? I really like what they're doing. Well, we can mimic what other people are doing and help build the same kind of community, do it even bigger and better, build lasting relationships, but not making it nearly as intensive or as difficult, okay? So that would be an example of truly listening through a tool like Twitter. A few things to keep in mind, especially since not nearly as many hands were raised when we asked how many of you were on Twitter versus Facebook. A few things to remember. First and foremost is to make sure that you complete your profile. And when I say complete it, I mean complete it. Not just complete it, but optimized. When we think about the ways that we would be looking for targeted prospects, other people will be looking for us in the same way. So we need to make sure that our profiles are complete in a way that address every part of our products and services that somebody could possibly be looking for. You guys are busy, and there's no doubt that you're busy. Use tools that are available to help you manage this process, to where you can pre-schedule your tweets, create targeted keyword lists so that you have, every time somebody's talking about a terrier, it's popping up for you. A tool that I recommend is something called Hootsuite. You also want to make sure that you're listing yourselves in directories, just like you would the phone book, or just like you would any other location where somebody would be searching for information about you. As I mentioned, you also have the opportunity to mimic others. There's 2 tools that I suggest to do that. One is gotwitter.com, and one is called tweetbee.com.
And those are what again?
Those 2 that I just listed, those are they're management tools that would help you mimic what somebody else is doing. So if you wanted to, if we were in complementary businesses and you knew that I'd been on Twitter for a while and I had a following that was very targeted to something that you would want to do, well, you can choose to follow or build a relationship with some of those exact same community members. Okay, let's talk a little bit about becoming an expert. There is no, and for those of you especially who are in service-based businesses, so whether that be a law firm, whether that be realty, wherever we are in industries where people are looking to us for information that we have and nobody else does, social media provides an unprecedented opportunity to really differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. A great way to use the concept of listening is to listen for questions and to be able to provide answers. So we can log on, how many of you, I'm sorry, we're active on LinkedIn? LinkedIn Questions is one of the most underutilized tools that are out there, particularly for those of us who are in business-to-business relationships. Make yourself a calendar and say, okay, once a week I'm going to log in and I'm going to find people who are talking about a specific topic that's interesting to me. You all are getting ready to do an estate planning workshop coming up, correct? So maybe it is that you are leading up to that event, you're going to start targeting people who are talking about those topics or those that are related. Once you provide that answer, it's publicly available, it establishes you as an expert, and again, builds to that idea of knowability, likability, and trustability. Okay. So a few things about that. If there are key topics that are relevant to you, I highly suggest, again, you guys are busy, and we want to make sure that this is as efficient as possible for you. I am all about automating the use of social media to make it efficient. Schedule alerts for those keywords that are important to you. A site that I recommend is socialmention.com. How many of you are familiar with Google Alerts? Okay. That would be something else that you would use your Google account for. Social Mention is similar in the idea that you would enter in keywords and you'll receive a notice anytime somebody is talking about yourself, your competition, your key players, your industry, etc. What Social Mention does, though, is allows you to choose what networks you're interested in. So let's say, for example, you want to find people who are talking about those things on Facebook, or you want to find people who are talking about those topics on Twitter. Social Mention allows you to be much more targeted about those. Okay.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I know some businesses that use some of these services, and it seems like they are constantly bombarded with updates and I mean,
it drives you crazy?
I was about to say, do you think there's a point where, what would you suggest as an expert as to what is too much or what's the balance? Where you lose like the personal feel?
Absolutely. Hold that thought until the next slide, because that's actually a pretty great transition. But one thing that I would tell you about that is to keep a calendar, make a plan. So you may say, okay, we are going to plan that we are going to update 3 times a day or 4 times a day. It depends on what your business is in a large case, and then it also depends if those are conversations that you're having with other people. But keep a calendar. Again, I keep saying it, you guys are busy. My guess is there's some things that if they're not written down or plugged into your BlackBerry, you're not going to do. Put them on a calendar. I call it an editorial calendar, just like you would have for traditional public relations. Give it to your staff person, have somebody in your office who is dedicated to do this, and live and breathe by it. Use those expertise Use that expertise for all of the other things that we talked about and we're focusing on today. The other very beneficial thing about listening in this way is we're able to use it for backlinks and increase traffic to our website. So there's a very strong search engine optimization component to taking the time to do this. And then finally, prepare standard responses. If you know that if there is a pretty standard response that you would give when somebody asks you about estate planning, because you know that it's so varied from person to person, and you know that there's certain, varies by states, etc. Prepare a canned response, cut and paste, so it shows that you're listening, you're reacting, but you're not having to take the time each time to type it out and craft that message. Okay, how many of you are iPhone users? Okay, how many of you are Mac users? A few of you. What's the difference between AT&T and Mac? Apple. Like if you have a problem with your iPhone, if you had your choice, are you going to call AT&T or are you going to go into the Mac store?
I'll call the Mac store, or I'll go to the Mac store and talk to somebody face to face.
Right. Why?
Because I don't have to lick all these buttons.
They're nice, right? It's the same. Being human. It's the same reason that we say, thanks for calling, or have a great day, and we have that smile on our face. It's that human interaction that helps us grow our business, right? That should not be lost, even though we're doing so many things online. So I want you to remember to be human. A few things to keep in mind is when we talk about this, when we talk about the kind of information that we want to be sharing online, we want to remember that we need to be telling our story, not selling. So in answer to your question about what's appropriate and what's not, there's no quicker way to turn off your audience than blatant self-promotional sales messages. There's a lot of ways that you can get that message across without saying, hey, we're having 10% special today every 30 minutes or whatever the case may be. And people do that. Next, as we already talked about, and it's worth repeating, we want to make sure that social media is all about them, not all about us. So it's very important to make sure that we are constantly listening, we're constantly making sure that our customers and our clients have their needs being met. Again, if we can take ourselves out of the equation with the realization we're doing this to grow our business, but if we can take that out of the equation where we're doing it in a self-promotional way, that's when we'll see results. And then finally, we really want to offer a solution. There's so much noise through social media. For those of you who are active on Facebook, you may think to yourselves, I know we all have friends like this. I don't care what you just had for lunch. I'm sure that Caesar salad and tomato soup was fantastic. I don't care. You need to be strategic. You don't want to be a part of the noise. You really want to make sure that you are offering a solution. So a couple of things to keep in mind. A benchmark that I suggest to my clients is to keep in mind the 60-20-20 rule. 60% of the things that you share should be informational. Excuse me. 20% should be conversational, and then 20% should be self-promotional. So let's take a look at a few of these. First, Scott, I'm going to ask you, what time is it?
12:32.
Perfect. Okay. First, let's talk about informational. One of my favorite authors on the topic of social media and new media marketing is a man by the name of Mitch Joel. If you have not read his book, 6 Pixels of Separation, I would put it on your must-read book list. He's fantastic. In any case, this is there's a screenshot of his Twitter stream. Now, as you'll see, he is sharing information. When I say sharing information, it's not just, there's a great article in the New York Times, or I've just created this blog post about, I keep picking on estate planning, I'm just pushing your workshop that you have coming up. You may do a blog post that helps to answer questions about estate planning. So those are all things that are informational.